But what I'll have us do is maybe you're here on a pillow or a blanket or a yoga block if you want to prop your tailbone, or maybe not. Instead of sitting, if you do want to lay down, that's okay too. So starting practice however you'd like, whatever will support your body the most. And then after we shift around, you're welcome to find stillness and close your eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes, just keep the gaze soft, not looking at anything specific. As we let ourselves settle here and arrive. We don't arrive as quickly as the definition of arrive might seem. It'll take us a few breaths to guide our senses in towards ourselves, where we begin to notice the fluidity of the breath, where we get to notice the physical body here. If you notice yourself clenching or gripping in any particular area, maybe already we can find that softening. We can begin to relax into the shape of the body. Noticing your awareness, would you describe right now that you're looking from the outside in, or are you looking from the inside out? And phrasing it that way, both views have similarities and both views have differences, but notice what your awareness leans towards. In this meditative space and the experiences of our stretch, do you tend to look from the outside in, or do you tend to look from the inside out? Maybe you do a little bit of both. So we're going to play around with this idea tonight in practice. We'll begin to open up our space with a few breaths. Together, let's breathe in through the nose and open the lips to exhale. Again, like that, deep breath in and a deep breath out. This third time, hands can stay relaxed where they are. They might gather into prayer at heart center or rest any other place on the body. You can choose to take another cleansing breath or join me for the sound of Om together as we breathe in. Gently bowing the chin to the chest, taking a moment to allow your breath and the vibrations to settle within the heart space, to reverberate off the walls of the inner body, and to seal your intentions for practice. Whenever you're ready, we can slowly open the eyes and bring the hands away. Arriving here, we are actually going to start with the hips. We're going to take our reclined butterfly shape. So in order for ourselves to prepare, you might use a pillow or a blanket at the back of the head. And, that's option one. I don't normally explain it this way because we usually just lay down on the floor and then bring the soles of the feet together, knees out wide. But in the event that you want to, if you're going to use books or yoga blocks, you might have one block, the first block here and the second block horizontal right in front of it. And you can always make a little ramp with your pillow or your bolster, and you can recline here. This will be less of a stretch, of course, but whether it's today or in the future that you don't want to lay completely flat on your back, you can always make that little ramp. One book or block here, and then the second book or block right in front of it. Okay, so just another idea to that. But anyway, as we come to lay back down, guiding the soles of the feet or maybe just the heels together. And as your knees open out to the sides, You might gather some other props around just to support the outer hips. You might still get the stretch even with the support, right? It might be for your back instead. Maybe there's a blanket underneath the tailbone. But then from there, as you arrive into that butterfly shape, you're welcome to let your hands and arms relax wherever is best. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, I made my screen a little brighter now. But anyway, as we welcome ourselves into this shape, arriving into the first stretch, no right or wrong place to stretch, at least on the, I guess we could say at least on the superficial level of it, no right or wrong place. Because wherever your body needs to stretch, those are the sensations you're going to feel first. But in the event that the sensation doesn't align with your experience, rather than call it wrong, we just want to readjust the body until we find a sensation that is aligned within our experience. So whatever you need today, or whatever you're willing to explore based on what your body is showing, that's what we will focus on. Looking from the outside in, we'll follow those internal cues and arrive into the best shape for the stretch. Looking from the inside out, do you notice the body clenching or gripping? Where can we begin softening? Letting go of unnecessary clenching. And as we continue this softening layer by layer, reclaiming the body's space, we observe this meditative perspective at times, looking from the outside in, and other times looking from the inside out. And so in your butterfly shape, you might take one more breath exactly where you are. And then we'll let ourselves gently lower your arms down to the outer hips and thighs. And we'll guide the knees back so that the feet can come flat to the floor. Any counter movements here, if the body would like to windshield wiper the knees, feel free to do so. Maybe you'd like to hug the knees into the chest and wrap around the shins or the backs of the thighs. Rock a little bit side to side. And you can take any other counter movements until the body is ready to settle into rebound. That place to pause, to take a relaxed experience. A meditative pause can be sitting, it can be laying on the back, it can be rolling to your side body. We get to arrive into this freeing space instead of fitting into some particular form to follow. There's nothing to follow. Observing those subtle sensations. Allowing all the tissues that we were just stretching to contract back slowly. And if you'd like to stay in your rebound space a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or when you're ready, we'll allow ourselves to move into the next stretch. So this is going to be a newer yin pose, at least I haven't shared it often. And this is going to guide us to the belly. So as you make your way to the belly, I'm just going to sit up for a second. And you're welcome to sit up as we're talking about this, and then you can always go to the belly after. But I'm just sitting up for a second to show you something at the wall. We don't do this often either, but when we would practice at the wall, at least in the studio, and we would have our legs in this like fishtail type of shape, one arm would come up, and as we lean towards the wall, the shape is called mermaid. And that's what we're going for, but we're going to do it on the floor. So what I mean by that is allowing the left arm to come up vertical as if it was the wall, but it's on the floor. We're going to first take our left ear and let it rest on the bicep. So we're not going to go into the deepest variation yet. We're just going to walk ourselves into it. Now, at this point, you might have more space. So if you lift up your head and just readjust your armpit and your shoulder, you can then bring the head down. Okay, so for the legs, let's talk about the legs first. You can always bring your knees up in towards the chest, better balance and also less of a sensation of stretch. You can have your legs out neutral or the kickstand, right? The right knee can bend and the foot can come flat to the floor or in front of you, just like we would do for our open wing. But instead of this arm being horizontal, it's now up above. Your ear can stay on your bicep, but to deepen the stretch, we're going to lower the head down to the floor. And as you lower your head down, maybe just the side of the head here touches. And that's when we'll start to get the stretch either through the neck, the shoulder blade, the armpit, the rib cage. And you can play around with where you need your legs depending on the sensations, but no right or wrong. We're not in this stretch as long as we are the other ones. Maybe eventually we could be, but even for my own practice, the minute we start to get that tingling and it becomes intense, like pins and needles, the fascia, the nervous system is saying the body doesn't need the stretch anymore. It's not doing anything at that point. And so far, the students that I've talked about this with are all kind of around the same time frame. So just know we're not going to hold this as long as we do the other ones. We're all continuously improving our fascia. And then we'll respect whatever the body needs. Your head could stay low towards the floor. It can always come up to the bicep, if you'd like. But as we observe this experience, body softens. Softening through the layers of bone, the layers of muscle. As we stay present within the stretch and within the pose, we're continuously observing, witnessing, and assisting the body in any way we could. And so just a few more breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, that right palm resting in front of us will guide the legs one on top of the other. And we'll help ourselves roll out of that left shoulder. We'll roll onto the belly where you might keep your arms resting, or you might press your palms into the floor, readjust your chest and belly, and then let yourself take a moment here. Arms can relax wherever they want as we notice these subtle sensations. And if it feels good, you can bend into the knees and always windshield wiper them from side to side if you'd like. The body might rest on the belly for rebound. Maybe you press your palms into the floor and you come up for child's pose. Maybe you're resting on your back, on your belly, or side body, wherever it might be. We can all take the different variations. What matters most is that we're in that energetic experience. Noticing those shifts of the breath. Noticing the subtle sensations from that left side of the body. If you'd like to spend a little bit more time here in rebound, you're more than welcome to do so. Or when you're ready, we'll take any counter movements after the rebound. We'll come back to the belly if we're not already there. We'll take that reclined, I guess we'll call it reclined mermaid on the right side. So I'm just going to switch sides so I can stay facing the same way. But as we allow the right arm to come up vertical, palm and elbow, everything is on the floor. You'll bring your right ear to your bicep just so that we can settle into the shape. Take any variation with the legs, and you can either, readjust that right arm, walk it a little bit farther. And whether the head stays where it is or it lowers down to the floor, that will be your choice. Then you can go back and forth as well. And of course, whenever you're ready, You'll settle into stillness. Maybe taking a few cleansing breaths as you arrive. Allowing the body to soften here is not weakening in any way. Instead, we're allowing ourselves to become more receptive. And checking in with your breath from time to time. And so we'll be here for a few more breaths. Feeling held here within this quieter space. And then when you're ready, that left palm coming in front of you, legs one on top of the other. We'll help ourselves roll out of the shoulders slowly. Of course, readjusting the head, the arms, the chest, unless you just kind of flow out of it and land perfectly where you're most comfortable. A cleansing breath where your body might feel ready to just settle into rebound and you're still. Or maybe you do find some movement, the windshield wipering of the legs, the rocking of the hips. Maybe your body just comes up a little bit for Sphinx or low cobra, any variations to extend the spine. Whether you stay there or child's pose or whatever you desire. The body is going to find that space and stillness. Take a moment here to resonate with the previous stretch. Rebound is one of the hardest parts of the practice and often overlooked because it's not tangible, this rebound space. It's looking from the inside. And if you can't quite put a finger on what you're feeling, just take a breather, take a rest, take a moment here, stop and smell the roses. And if you'd like to spend more time here, you're more than welcome to stay. Or when you're ready, we'll begin to press down into the floor. If we're still on the belly, we might go into child's pose anyway, just to transition. So maybe you're going to do that, or take any other awakening movements. Anything that will counter that time in stillness and feel nourishing for the body, until we make our way up to a seated shape. And no rush at all to get there. But we're going to come up to sit. And then I'm going to give us an option. So both of these poses you've done in class, we're going to either come into deer or sleeping swan, and you can choose whichever one you want to do today, whichever one you like better, whichever one challenges you, right? Whatever you want to do. So for deer, left shin, if we were sitting cross-legged, left shin stays in front, that right knee rotates behind. Okay. So if I were to sit to the side of that, I have my blanket underneath my tailbone, if that's helpful, right? Or your glutes maybe, stacking your pillows, your bolsters, whatever it is, using your props so that you can fold over that left shin. You might not want to fold that deeply, so maybe sitting upright is going to be the best stretch for you, because to be honest, I feel my hip whether I'm sitting tall or folding, so just doing what's best for your body. Either way, you're in the stretch. So that's deer, right? If you choose deer. Sleeping swan looks a lot like pigeon. It's just called sleeping swan, and we're not as active. So that left knee coming up towards the wrist, still on a diagonal, similar to the deer, unless both in deer and sleeping swan, you're more in the parallel, right? Depending on how your hip externally rotates. And you can come down to the forearms if you want. You might prop your forehead. You might have something for your chest and your abdomen. You might be propping the left glute, propping the right hip, whatever you need. And sometimes you won't know if you need it unless you try. So if your mind gives you an idea, I would explore it until you decide what to do. But anyway, come into one of those shapes, whether you choose deer or sleeping swan. Props for ankles or knees. Sometimes just a bone is going to need a little extra cushion. It has nothing to do with the stretch. And so whenever you're ready, as you follow those internal cues, once you've adjusted the body, you'll close your eyes and welcome yourself into stillness. Whether you're in deer or sleeping swan, just notice the sensations that you might be feeling in one area of the body or a few spots. Arriving into the present, just one breath at a time. Softening and relaxing into the front body and into the back body. Instead of holding that unnecessary tension and clenching the body, it's almost counterintuitive if we're asking the body to soften and open. Well, if we're clenching, then we're telling it to not do that. So instead of giving the body these mixed signals, can we practice that skill of softening? And wherever you are, we're going to be here for a few more breaths. Of course, if you'd like to stay a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to. But if you're ready to release, we're going to let ourselves press into the floor slowly. And depending on where you are, we're all going to be releasing differently. You might be facing one side of the room or the opposite side of the room, and that is fine. Riding that experience like a wave here. Take any counter movements for the body. And if you're not sure what to do, just stop and then your body will tell you. Is it craving more of a forward fold? Is it craving like a good morning stretch and you can lift the arms? Does the body guide you to lay down for some more movement? Does the body take you forward into tabletop and some things? And so after these counter movements, arriving into any comfortable place. Wherever you'd like to rebound. And just sitting with the body here and all of your awareness. Noticing those subtle sensations. As that new patterning settles into the muscle memory of the body, we can still feel it and we might continue to feel it, whether we decide to stay here or awaken ourselves and transition into the right side of sleeping swan or deer. Now, if this opposite side of the body would benefit more by taking the other shape, that's fine. You don't have to take the same thing on both sides. Okay, so whether you choose deer, that's going to be right shin in front of you, left knee behind you, or to the side, and then you fold, propping yourself however you need, whether you're low to the ground or upright. Doing that or coming into sleeping swan, setting yourself up like a pigeon shape where the right leg might be more on a diagonal, or the shin, I should say. Propping your right glute or that space in between your left hip and your right heel. Sometimes those two collide, at least for me. So I often take a prop just for comfort. No right or wrong. And each side of the body might need a different variation of the same stretch, or it might need a whole new pose, right? So rather than be attached to what you've done on the previous side, give yourself that undivided attention and do what's best for this next side of the body. And if you haven't softened into the pose, begin to do so. Checking in with your breath from time to time. Maybe you find yourself noticing that gaze at the backs of the eyelids, just staring forward, but noticing that distant space. Again, finding that blend between looking from the outside in and looking from the inside out. We'll be in our stretch for a few more breaths. And of course, if you'd like to stay a little bit longer, feel free. Or when you're ready, let's gently press down. Eyes closed, gaze is soft. We'll walk ourselves out of the shape. The body might be guiding you similar to the previous side or completely different. And taking any counter movements, or maybe the body just drifts you right into rebound. Maybe noticing that space within the breath. The body feeling more connected to itself, but also feels lighter at the same time. And hovering in that rebound space. These moments of rest in between, solidifying that experience for the physical body, that physical stretch that we endured. It's just like when we sleep and our body does all of its cleaning and most of its detoxing. Our rebound is where we get that imprint. It's the rest. Within those moments of rest that the body really absorbs these new patterns. And in this brief pause, our mind continues to rest in meditation, in awareness or consciousness. And if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or whenever you're ready, we'll make our way up to a seat. No rush at all. And you can take any movements along the way. We just have to come up to sit to rearrange our props to get us ready for the next stretch. So again, no rush here, but we're going to let ourselves come into heart bench, excuse me. We're going to come into heart bench. And we're going to do this with a folded blanket, unless you know that you have like the perfect pillow or the perfect bolster for this. If not, we're going to do a blanket. So you can fold that blanket as thick or as thin as you'd like, and it's going to rest vertically here. So sometimes I just leave it a little bit wider, and other times I might fold this particular blanket one more fold to get it a little thicker. It just depends on the day. And you may or may not use a pillow for the back of the head, because our heart bench here, the back of our heart rests right on the blanket or prop. And then our arms usually melt off the sides and they hang out in cactus or they open out into T, depending on what's good for you. So letting our bodies come to lay back down, you might bring that prop right at the base of the tailbone, just depending on the prop and what type of support you need for your low back. So I like that there. And then once I support my head and neck, then my arms rest to the floor. So the blanket is underneath, the back is elevated somewhat as the arms lower down, whether it's that cactus shape, maybe T, or just like halfway, Now the knees can always stay bent, feet flat to the floor if that's helpful for the body. One leg could go long or maybe both legs. Sometimes you'll start in one shape and then you'll transition into another one later on. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. So we're going to hang out in heart bench here, the back of the heart resting. As the body begins to settle into that stillness. And the body might be attuning to more sensations as we allow our awareness to observe. Notice which window your awareness is looking through. as we find these blends between our external and internal senses. Letting go of any clenching or gripping. Again, that happens so that we can signal to the body that we are looking for that length of the tissue. But of course, stretching within the means of the body, not forcing anything, not pulling too quickly, just at that perfect spot of the edge. That place between comfort and discomfort here. We're going to be here for a few more breaths. Of course, you can always release at any time. And maybe taking another full cycle of breath where you are. And then very gently, we might start to awaken the arms first. We'll let them lower down towards the hips. Maybe they still rest on the floor. Your knees can bend in one at a time, feet come flat. And just being mindful of our props beneath us, we're going to roll either to the right or to the left. We're going to feel a little dip. And maybe you just rest on your side body. Bottom arm can be a pillow for the head. We'll feel that release of the back and breath of fresh air along the spine. Your body might stay here to rebound, unless you feel like you want to press into the floor, walk yourself up to sit. Maybe you find another counter movement, a gentle fold, a gentle twist. Just noticing how your experience evolves and transitions. That time in our heart bench isn't necessarily complete. It's just changing. And settling into that moment of reflection. Maybe feeling the fullness of the breath. If you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to stay. Or you might gently awaken from your rebound and you'll find a counter movement here or there, gently awakening. Sometimes a stretch feels like that sensation of the ripping of the Band-Aid, that slight sting. And then our rebound and those gentle counter movements are where we take our hand and we rub really quickly along the skin to apply some comfort. That same feeling energetically happening here. Okay, so if you haven't yet folded, we are going to come into a twist right now, but in the event that you haven't yet folded and your body is asking for that, you're more than welcome to come up to sit and just kind of give yourself a forward fold. Some people take the fold into the entire rebound, right? So it just kind of, whatever guided you is where you went, but if you want the fold, feel free to fold. And then we're going to start talking about that twist. So for our twist in today's practice, we're either going to come into supine twist or pinwheel. And then we have two variations of pinwheel or supine twist that we can talk about. You'll remove some of your props, but you might keep a pillow near you, whether it's for the head and maybe actually something else to support the inner legs. We will be twisting to the right so that our left leg is on top. And for supine, right, knees are high into the chest. And if your legs don't touch the floor, you might bring a prop underneath, or you can bring a pillow or blanket in between the inner legs if that's helpful for your top hip. Okay, so that's option one. Option two, as you keep this left knee hugging into the chest, the right leg is lower, and the pinwheel happens because one leg is now higher than the other. You might still prop that top left knee with a pillow or blanket as we open to twist. The only extra variation to this is if your right leg, right, doesn't want to be bent and you'd rather straighten it, that might give you more space in your back. You're welcome to explore that twist. Okay, whether you're resting more on your side, especially if your shoulders are tight, or you'll readjust and let your entire body open. So feel free to explore. Find that supine twist or either variation of pinwheel. We're twisting to the right side first so that the left leg is on top. Your right arm might rest out farther away, but your left arm might be the one that's closer to you depending on your shoulder. That left arm can rest all the way up to the ear. That left elbow might bend slightly or just rest down by your back. And so playing around here and finding the best variation that will work for you. And it's important that we stay present within the shape because when the body wants more stretch or less stretch, we're ready to assist. We're ready to be of service to the body's experience. And so as we settle here, beginning to soften if you haven't already. And just softening layer by layer. There's no rush. Becoming more receptive to the body's experience. And sometimes we feel calm and we do feel that we're softening and relaxing. But certain poses can still shorten the breath. So notice if there's any clenching around the diaphragm. Instead of locking the breath in, we want to continue to fuel the circulation. We'll be in our twist for a few more moments. Of course, if you'd like to stay longer, you're more than welcome to. Or when you're ready, we'll gently begin to release. And we'll release the left leg, left arm, and then the right side body will start to move. As you rearrange the hips and shoulders, sometimes a counter bridge pose feels good in terms of extending the spine. Maybe it's more like a windshield wipering of the knees. And sometimes I even like to hug the legs into the chest and lift the feet to the ceiling. Just taking any natural movements, any freeing movements, whatever word relates to you the most. Sometimes I say intuitive because certain poses that we find ourselves arriving and relaxing into, there's no actual thought, right? We don't hear our mind say, "Ooh, now do that." We just end up doing it. So following that natural wave, wherever the body takes you, to then pause and rebound if you're not already there. Maybe taking a cleansing breath. Feeling the shift of awareness, the state of equilibrium within the body. We can get to equilibrium through comfort as well as through beneficial discomfort. And softening even in your rebound. From there, you can stay exactly where you are, or we'll begin to move the body around and come into our twist on the opposite side. We might bring our props over to the left. This time we're twisting to the left so that the right knee and right leg are on top. And again, those options of supine with your props underneath the left leg or in between the inner knees. That pinwheel option, right knee hugging into the chest as you twist, left knee is lower. But of course, if you want to straighten that left leg underneath you, that might give you more space in your back to twist. Rearranging your arms and shoulders. You can rest however you'd like. And then within your space, we'll begin to arrive. Allowing ourselves to find some comfort within discomfort. We can soften by looking from the outside in, as well as looking from the inside out. This blend of perspective. And feeling held here within the stillness. Within the quieter state of perspective. And so we'll be in our twist for a few more moments here. What else are you noticing about the experience in the body, in the mind or heart? And then very slowly, we'll begin taking a breath and unraveling from the twist. Just moving slowly, no rush. The body has just spent time stretching against patterns that we've created. It's always uncomfortable to break a habit. So just move slowly, comfort the body here. Take any movements that will help nourish, feel good, to counter that time of stretch. And we'll take as many counter movements as we need. These will be our final movements of practice. So to end that, you might even hug your knees into the chest. Maybe even if you're feeling up for a happy baby, you can always find one of them. Or just moving your arms and legs in any way. This final rebound will guide us into our Shavasana. So you might have a pillow for the head, maybe something underneath the knees, and maybe a blanket. And sometimes you'll use no props at all. Maybe you used your props and you've had enough. You can just lay on your back without any props. Not resting on your back, maybe you go to your belly or you lay on your side body. Whatever will feel most nourishing. We'll guide ourselves to stillness, of course, from there. We might continue to feel this slight humming or buzzing of presence. And as we begin to absorb our practice, we'll welcome ourselves into these quiet and meditative moments of Shavasana. And then very gently, let's begin to deepen the breath. And just noticing here the presence of the inhales and exhales as we gently awaken. Within your own time, we can move through the hands and feet. After rolling into the wrists and ankles, you might stretch the arms up and above the head. Arms can lengthen. And as you bend into the knees and bring the feet flat to the floor, take any other awakening movements until you roll either to your right or to your left. Resting on your side body here, you might want to stay in this space to end practice. Or you'll gently press down into the floor and walk yourself up to sit. Take your time, no rush. But we will meet back in stillness with the eyes closed when you're ready. And taking this moment to reflect upon your practice, noticing that reclaimed space, expansion, and clarity. Hands can stay relaxed, or hands might gather into prayer or rest in anywhere most comfortable. And as we choose to take one cleansing breath, or join me for the sound of Om. In gratitude, we'll take a deep breath in. Om. And gently bowing the chin to the chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.